and welcome to the Medium Next Door. My name is Bonnie Page, and I have a very special guest today, Brant, the evidential medium. Brant and I, welcome, first of all, Brant. Thank you so much for being here. Brant and I are going to be discussing some things today about mediumship and psychic abilities, and actually how you can build your own psychic abilities to just bring some guidance and clarify some things that are going on in your life. So happy that you're with us here today.
So, Bonnie, what's been your most unusual reading that you've ever had?
The most unusual reading. Well, it was kind of funny because I was doing an event this weekend, and I had a lady's dad, right? A daughter's father started chatting with me and talking to me. But then it was so funny because he started interviewing me.
Really?
And asking me questions to ask her.
Wow.
And so I went with the flow, and I did, and it was amazing. So I think I'm just remembering my last one that was a little bit different, but I started laughing, and I'm like, wow, I'm being interviewed from heaven.
Was he a reporter?
I don't know. He was actually a businessman, but he was very outspoken and easy to talk to, and it was kind of fun, but it was different, right?
Yeah.
You know, because usually we're trying to ask them questions telepathically, like, tell us about this or your favorite memory or something that we can give the person in front of us. And then this man started saying, hey, ask my daughter which is the most extravagant gift that I've ever given her. And she said to me, a Rolex watch. And I was like, oh.
Wow.
And then he started talking, and yeah, and then I go, your father had a yacht. And she's like, yes. And he just started telling me more and more things about that. So it was pretty cool. It was funny. It's nice because some readings are sad, and others, the person in spirit comes through so full of life and energy and laughing and with a sense of humor, and then you can have a little more fun with those.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
when it's a dialogue between your sitter, yourself, and the spirit, the amazing things just absolutely happen.
Yeah, and it's not so tragic of a story that you have to really be really solemn for.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
How about yours?
So the one that's popping into my head, I've had a few, but the most recent one, I had a very young gentleman, as a client while I've been working down in Salem for Halloween in October, which has been a very interesting experience in a lot of different ways. But I had this gentleman sit down with me, and he was torn between going to college or going into the armed forces, and I'm like, you're the spitting image of your grandfather, aren't you? And he's like, I am. And I said, you want to actually follow in his footsteps? He's like, I do. And I was like, it's not the Army, but I feel it's either the Navy or the Air Force. He said it was the Navy. And then we spread out the tarot cards, and he pulled the anchor. Oh,
so it was a definite yes. Yeah. Go into the
Navy.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. Just you know, when those types of things happen, the things that are beyond coincidence, beyond chance, that's how you know that there's, you know, spirit and magic is really involved in that. I mean, there's 78 cards, and to pull that one,
exactly.
It's a
so
miracle.
When we use the cards or a tool, right? It just really kind of confirms what we're saying, but it really confirms it for the person to see it. Oh my God, there's an anchor there. Yes, now I know for sure.
Right.
So it just kind of reinforces what we're telling people, which is nice.
Right.
Yeah. And so let's talk about the difference between giving readings for, and how some people think of them more as entertainment, and how it, at least I do, and I think you do, more for a healing aspect. Like what is the difference between
you, Brant? Well, I notice the people that are coming in.
Because we should say you've been, like you just said, you've been working in Salem.
I've been working in Salem.
Mass, and that's a whole different kind of atmosphere.
Right. when people come to us are searching for a medium, they're usually looking for, I need to talk to my departed loved one. When they're coming in for in a place like that's, for Salem, or there's a psychic fair, a lot of people are coming like, oh, this could be fun, this could be entertainment. A lot of times when they're coming in, they don't really have a question, or there isn't somebody necessary that they want to talk to. And what I found is then when people are coming for an entertainment value, they're more looking to say, oh, well, what is it that you can tell me about me? When we read their energy, I had this one person that it was a father, and I said, I feel like you work in corporate. He's like, yes. I feel like it's more like with sales than anything else. And he's like, yes. I said, is it a healthcare organization? He's like, yes. And it was just, there was a feeling for that. I felt it. And I knew I was going into his energy as opposed to connecting with a departed loved one. Because you can feel it moving forward and backwards, sometimes in time.
Because we're kind of going into their aura, too.
Right, and pulling that. And when we're talking with a loved one in spirit, we're going up.
Up.
So when the people are coming to us, it's like, I miss my mom, like I didn't get a chance to say goodbye. They're coming for a healing experience.
Exactly.
They want to have a feeling of they have unresolved questions, or
and they want a connection with their mom. And I have to say, a good medium can make you feel that connection. That, wow, it's like I'm sitting down with my mom having a conversation.
Definitely.
And it's just easy flowing, and it's very easy, right?
It is. It's much more natural, I noticed that. Is when somebody comes down and they don't really have a clue, they just want something. It's challenging because you don't know even what they want. I even ask my clients, well, what do you want me to concentrate on? Do you want me to concentrate on your career so that I know how to read that energy? Or do you want me to concentrate on, what's coming in for love? But when people give you, just say, oh, just tell me anything, it's like you had a cat.
It's kind of cool when we can tell them that they had Cheerios for breakfast, though, right?
I haven't gotten cereal, though.
I have seen the exact cereal that people eat,
That's
and I'm
awesome.
like, that's amazing. Or, even when you're talking to a loved one in heaven and they pull out a pocket of jelly beans, and you just learn that you give whatever you get. See, hear, and feel, right?
Right.
So I'm like, I'm seeing jelly beans. Oh, always snuck some candy in their pocket and jelly beans. So it's kind of neat when we get the details, the details of a message.
Oh,
right?
I mean, well, that's the evidence, right? I mean, if we were just to say, well, you had a mom and a dad and you were a single child, I mean, that could be broad on so many levels. Or, you had a grandma that bakes. I mean, how many grandmas normally do bake? And again, there's some that don't. But when you go just more stereotypical, right? When you have, it's hard.
We have to find the balance, right? Because we can end up giving a lot of evidence, and then we go to our heart, right? Our heart chakra. And I don't know about you, Brant, but I asked the person that we're interviewing in heaven, what do you need, like, your daughter to know? Like, what is that piece of something? That special message that they need that person to know, because now they know that they have a link, and they know that you're talking to their mom or their dad or whatever. But really, what does that person in heaven need them to know for their journey here?
And sometimes,
and I love that.
Sometimes it's just to know that they're around us. Like, even when you tell them something that might be, for lack of a better word, on a psychic level, oh, your mom saw that you were out in the supermarket and you picked up the jar of tomato sauce and you just said, oh, it's just not like mom's. If we gave that as evidence and she just happened to do that, that shows that the mother was there.
Absolutely. And I tell the story of how I was just in England at the Arthur Findlay College, and my mom came through 7 different mediums in 7 days.
Wow.
And told them what I was thinking the day before.
That's amazing.
So really, they know your thoughts.
They do. They do. And so you have to
which
be
is
careful.
amazing. Exactly. You have, yes. So, it's funny having this ability. We do have that responsibility to, how people say, walk the talk or whatever, because we know that everyone in spirit can see what we're doing and why we're doing it. And then you give someone a reading, and I always tell them, now you know that really they are watching you, not to judge you, never to judge you, but to protect you, to guide you, and because they love you and they're around your energy, right?
Right.
It's kind of a responsibility. I used to tell my son, you know, spirits like Santa Claus. They know if you're bad, they know if you're good. And so hopefully that made him a little bit good. And no, he's a great son.
That's good.
But I really did used to tell him that. You
Yeah.
know, like when you think no one's watching, there is someone watching. But
I had one of my clients ask me, do they see me in the shower?
that's a big question
It
people
is.
ask, you know.
They have really no interest to see you in the shower. They also do respect your privacy. And if you ask them that's a boundary issue, they'll respect that. Spirit's intelligent.
Exactly.
There's still people.
Right. A lot of people don't understand that we still have our same personalities up in heaven, but we might be a little more enlightened.
Right.
Because we go through this life review, and again, not for judgment, but so that we could see what we did, we could have done a little bit different,
Right.
or a little bit kinder, or how our soul could have grown a little bit more, expanded a little bit more, how we could have showed a little more compassion or sympathy for someone,
Right.
right? And
Right.
that's important. That's important.
It's very important. I mean, Spirit, you're still learning on the other side. And I think people
Exactly.
don't realize that. They think, well, we're dead or in heaven and now it's just a whole, entire, party. It's not. There's a whole another, life after death, and you go back into school, you start learning things all over again, and it's just, there's so much. I mean,
There's so much you can do, though. Like, I have so many people in heaven tell me, I always wanted to learn to play the guitar, and then they show me that they've got this big guitar and they're just rocking it out. It's just really like on Earth, only what? You don't need to work unless you want to.
Right.
Right? You have everything you need, so there's none of those worldly, like, I have to make a paycheck.
right.
Right? Because heaven looks pretty good to me.
It does. When are we going back?
And that's why we love working with people. But yeah, some people do go to heaven with a regret or something that didn't go so well here down on earth, and they do have a regret, and they work on that too. And then another subject that can be a little tricky with talking about heaven is children in heaven. Do you get a lot of children, Brant?
I don't, and I think it's because children just aren't really on my radar. Every once in a while, one will pop in, but it's not something. I mean, I haven't wanted kids since I was like 20, and it was for a very short period of time. And I think that has a lot to do with it. I get a lot of mothers because I was just very close with my mom.
Exactly.
I get dads, and I get some brother-in-laws and outsides of the families, things like that. And as far as cause of death, ranges from everywhere. It's
Same with me, because I'm very motherly.
Yes.
I really am very motherly.
Yes, you're fabulous.
To
You're
a
motherly.
lot of people. But I get a lot of children in heaven.
Do you really?
Especially if I'm doing an event or a demonstration, I'll get the youngest people coming up to me, like as small as 5 and 6, saying, "My mom's out there," and they still talk like a kid.
Yeah.
And it's so cute. In fact, one night before an event, I was sitting out back, and this little boy from Spirit came, and he must have been like 5 years old, and he was so cute. And he told me he had gotten sick and he had to go to the hospital, but his mom and his sister was out in the audience. But he actually took his hand and put it over mine, and he goes, "Do you want me to show you around?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know if you can do that." And now I kind of wish I would have said yes. Hey, show me a little more about heaven. But a lot of the young ones that little will say, "Oh, tell mommy I go to school here."
Really?
So I know there's school there. I know there's lots of different things that they can do, and and sometimes when I see children, which I love to see the children, I welcome them to come to me. It's a little sad. It really goes to your heart, and it stays with you a little bit. But it sure is worth it to give a parent a message from a child. And so even if it takes a little bit more of a toll, it's worth it.
Right.
And I also know that children in heaven also grow in heaven and become young adults. And they'll show me what they look like when they passed, and then how they look now, a few years later, since they've been gone.
That's awesome.
And so when you can give a description to a mom and dad of what their child looks like now and what they're actually doing in heaven, because they could be playing baseball or going fishing or whatever hobbies they want to do, it's so nice. The parents get a link with them.
Right, right. And even, actually, and maybe you can validate this, for you, when Spirit comes in and they're talking to your client or to their loved one that's still here, I find that they usually present themselves in how they felt most comfortable and how the sitter is most going to remember them.
Yes, yes. If you only remember really your grandmom being with gray hair, sitting down, fragile at the end of life, that's how grandma's going to come through, just because that's how you're going to know her or recognize her.
Right.
But I tell everyone that when my mom passed, she was 88 years old, and she had let her hair grow longer and pretty silver gray, but when she comes through now to me, she looks 35.
Yep.
She knows that there's a picture that I always look of her when she was around that age, so she knows she can come through looking that young.
Yep.
And that's what happens, Brant. When we go back to heaven, we can come through looking and feeling our best.
Right.
Right?
Right.
There's no more pain in heaven. There's none of those disabilities,
Or even illnesses. So if someone had cancer and they lost all their hair, that's all gone. That all the pain, the suffering, the loss of the hair, them being hunched over, when they present themselves to you, they're going to present themselves to you in their best. Even my mom. My mom, I always know it's my mom and not a dream. So I always know it's a real visit from her because she'll be dressed in what we buried her in.
Oh, and then it's a visit.
It's a
Like
visit.
we should tell people about visits, the difference between
Yes.
dreams and visits.
Yes.
So if it's very vivid,
Yes.
if it can be in colors, it can be like such a real conversation. It's a visit, not a dream.
So when my mom visits, I swear that was more real than life itself. There's no time passed. I did have a recent dream with my mom that kind of came, and I didn't realize, I don't want to say I didn't realize it was her, but when I realized that it was a visit, because we were having a bit of an argument, actually. We had difference of opinion. And so that can still happen. But then when I realized, it was like, oh, crap, I wasted some time, because we were trying to work something out. And I ended up realizing that it was too late, and then I woke up. And once I make that connection that this is an actual visit in my head, I immediately wake up.
Yes, we should tell you that sometimes when you're having a dream and you come to more of a conscious state, it's gone.
It's gone.
We lose it.
We lose it.
So there is something that right before you're falling asleep or right before you're waking up, you can kind of go into that middle state of being. Do you ever do that? It's called agnostic.
I'm working on it.
And it's really fun. So if you're seeing something, but you're like when you were coming to,
Yep.
if you could have kept yourself in that and not looked directly at her, like just kind of taken it in, it would have lasted longer for you.
Well, that's good to know.
Because the minute that you say, oh, look what I'm seeing, it's gone. It's gone.
Well,
so you have to learn to hang around in that middle state of sleep and not sleeping.
I have done it a couple of times. It's when the most vivid one, I feel like was in Sears, and I was actually looking at jewelry, and I felt someone behind me. And I'm like, somebody's here. And I turn, I'm like, Mom, what are you doing here? She's like, I came for a visit. And I was like, but you're dead. She's like, I know. And then we actually had a conversation, probably lasted about 5 minutes. She gave me a hug, and when she gave me that hug, I woke up still feeling her. And those are the moments that I know that it's a visit. Whereas sometimes if she's not wearing the same clothes or there's something kind of different going on, then I know it's just a dream. But you will feel a difference. You will feel that they're still here, or that you swore that you were still living in a different life or in a different time period. And that's what makes it so real and amazing.
I can go in that middle state and wake up a little, and I can see myself having a whole chatting with my mother. And then I come, and I'm like, oh, I was just having a long conversation with Mom.
Yeah.
Right? It's fun.
It is.
I mean, it's nice. And why do we share this? Because we want really everyone to have a little piece of this gift given to them. And, you know, we should tell people that, you know, you can build your intuitive muscle. Right?
Right.
Everybody can build that intuitive muscle. Maybe not everyone can take it a step beyond and be a medium, right? We'd all be walking around seeing heaven. But everybody is born with an intuitive muscle that you can build.
Yes.
And I teach classes with that too. So I have one nurse that I told her, I told my whole class, when the phone rings, guess who's on it before you go to pick it up.
Yep.
Or when you go to get a piece of mail, how many pieces of mail are in the mailbox? But this one nurse said to me just this weekend, she said, oh, Bonnie, at work, I can, I guess weights now. You weigh 163. They're like, oh, yeah, you're 5'5". Like, she's just guessing, but it's all right. It's all correct because she's using that intuitive muscle, and now she's just getting it.
Yep.
And so she's amazing herself, but her people that are there like, wow, like, are you just really good at this? But it's from using that intuitive muscle.
I like the mail. I haven't done that one yet.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Or you can take a magazine and just kind of get the energy from it and say, I wonder what is on page 16. And then you can see if anything comes in. Is there a person? Is there an animal? You know, what is there flowers? Like, what's on page 16? But ask before you open it up, and then see if you're right. And that's using your intuitive muscle.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I use my Zener cards.
What are Zener cards?
So have you ever seen, like on TV, they do the ESP test. It has the plus sign, it has the wavy lines, the circle, the square, and I forget, and a star. And they're in different colors.
I haven't done that before.
I should have brought them. I didn't. I brought my other cards today, but I didn't bring that one. So essentially what you do is you hold the card up. Well, you hold it this way so you can't see it. And then you try to guess what symbol it is. And then I put mine into 3 piles. So I have completely wrong, 50% right, which is either shape or color, or 100%, meaning I got it completely right. And then you start just keeping tallies of it. And it's a great way to keep building up your intuitive, abilities, because you've got you're focusing on colors and shapes, and your goal is obviously to get completely right.
100%.
Well, I don't know if I'll ever get 100%, but if I'm right now balancing between 50% right and 50% wrong, which isn't bad. So it's 50% is of color or shape. And then I've got anywhere from 3 to 5, 100% accurate. But I'm aiming for the 50% right now. So as long as I'm staying above the 50%, I'm doing good.
So let's tell people, Brant, why they would want to build up their intuitive or psychic gifts.
That's a good question.
So really, because we can use it in our everyday lives.
Yep, this is true.
It's guidance for us. If you're able to say to yourself, there's 2 jobs out there. There's this job and this job. Which one do I want? And people will come to us for that, right? But if they've been learning to build up that intuitive muscle, they can go inside, or they'll know how to get a feeling of which one is the right decision.
I've walked into a couple companies interviewing because I'm in IT, but I've walked into a couple companies. I'm like, oh no, this is not the place for me.
Because you got the feeling.
I got the feeling.
And so when you're used to working with this psychic or intuitive feeling, it becomes just second nature to you.
Right.
So I always teach my classes, Brant. So say you're going for a job interview or whatever, and you get off the telephone from it. Well, if you feel like doing the happy dance, that was probably the job you're supposed to take. But if you hang up the phone and say, oh, I don't know about this one. Well, that's that gut feeling kicking in that's saying, yeah, maybe not this time this time or around for this place.
Or even
so go with that gut feeling, which is called clairsentience or claircognizance, just a knowing that you're going to have. And isn't it strange that most men have claircognizance, Brant?
I don't know.
Yes.
Is it really?
Yes. Most men have claircognizance where they don't even think about it. They're like, nope, that's going to work, or that's just not.
Interesting.
Yeah, some women do have it, but it's known to be a manly thing. So my husband has it. And my friends will call and say, ask George what he thinks about this. And he'll be like, nope, that's no good. I'll be like, don't you want to ask me? But they don't.
That's funny. Well, when you think about it, mothers have a very strong instinct, especially if something's happened to their child.
Right.
I know, and this was when I was a kid. I'm in IT, so I like to play and do scientific stuff. I was actually
the difference between boys and girls.
I actually stuck a couple keys into an electrical outlet.
The difference between boys and girls.
And I grabbed onto them, and I got a shock. And I pulled them out with the pencil. And my grandmother came down like 5 minutes later. What were you doing? Nothing. You stuck keys in that outlet, didn't you? I'm like, how did you know? And you pulled them out with a pencil. I'm like, I did. Did you watch me? She's like, no, and I knew she didn't because I heard her come down the stairs.
However, this gift is a little hereditary. Well,
it is
hereditary.
This is true. And I got it from my grandmother and my mother.
Maybe
no
she
question.
was using that gift to know what you were doing.
Probably. Either that or the lights flickered somewhere, which is very possible too. You never know. You never know. But it's amazing. It's truly amazing.
So if you start to use this gift, it gets stronger. So, like Brant said, with cards or it's even funny. You can take 3 envelopes and put like a number in one of them and guess which number's in the card.
Yeah, or even symbols. I've done it with pictures. I've done it with some experiments with that. Different, like I've had a giraffe, I've had a tree, I've had a house, a cat, and then just kind of pass it around and see what people pick up. That's a great one too. That's a good tool and a good test for yourself, and everybody can do that.
And you know what else? I think everybody should have a deck of angel cards. Because I'm like the angel lady, but I see the angels and the fairies, so I have this strong connection with them. But I send everybody away with a box of angel cards if I can, because it starts getting them used to using their own intuitiveness. So what I ask them to do is to say a little prayer over the deck of cards, ask a question, and then use their intuitiveness to pick the card that they need to pick. So when I was brand new a few years ago and working with a deck of cards, I can hear Archangel Michael talk in my right ear. So I would really want to pick the right card, right? And so I was putting some little, just this, whatever you want to call it, on myself, like making myself nervous with it, right? Just too much pressure, right? Pick the right card, pick the right card. And so I would just shuffle it around, and I would wait for Archangel Michael to say, it's on your thumb, it's on your thumb, like really loud to me. And then I'd be like, this is the one. And that's how I started off. I don't need him to do that anymore. It's a feeling. Okay, Michael's saying, yep, you have the right one. But when I was new, I liked to hear his big voice. It's on your thumb, it's on your thumb. And that would be the card. And so even if you're not hearing from an angel, you can get a feeling, or you're attracted to the right card to pull.
Just like pulled the anchor card.
And that starts building your intuitive muscle.
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, it's hard, especially when things are really like blatant like that. It's hard. It becomes difficult to ignore. I know some people kind of question whether the cards are even just viable as tools, because, well, why are you using the cards? Why aren't you just using your own nature? And it's a combination. I mean, sometimes the cards are used as a tool to get us out of our head. But when you pull a card like that, and I don't know if anybody can see it, but it's an anchor card. When somebody's actually trying to make a decision whether they're going to school or the Navy, they could have pulled the book. there's a card in here for that's of a book or even a letter. It's amazing. I'm always amazed at how Spirit and this whole ability even just works for us, because a lot of times we're using it every day and don't even realize it.
So I'm getting a hit from Spirit right now, and they're saying that someone out there is wondering if they need to go to school or not. So I'm going to have you shuffle your cards.
Okay.
I feel like it's a young lady. She's coming in. She's in her mid-20s, and she's needing to know if she needs to advance her education. So whoever's out there watching this, this is for you. I'll just have Brant do his little thing here.
Sure. So I'll pull 3 cards just to let you know what I'm picking up out of it.
I can see a young lady in my head. Can you see a young lady?
Yep. So there is a bit of a young woman, a young child here.
Yeah.
There is also the card of time, and there's either a sense that she's uncertain whether now is the right time to go back to school. It might be that she actually has a little child of her own, and she's really kind of debating on whether to do that. Now, here's the thing with this is the Tree of Life, which the Tree of Life represents growth and challenge. So there is definitely the affirmation that you need to kind of go do this. It's a question of what is the right time with this, and this is probably the biggest card that's prominent with me. So I'm going to just pull another card to kind of represent it. Look at it as a gift. Look at time as a gift, as an opportunity for it, because this will give us the opportunity, or give you the opportunity to find it.
And that's a beautiful gift.
It's a beautiful gift.
And I kind of went like, this when I saw the little girl, because that's the hair I saw with the lady coming through, and I'm like, that's the hair.
She's probably a spitting image of her mom.
Yeah.
It would definitely go back to school. If it's a question of can you make the time will become as a gift. Either somebody's going to give you the opportunity to this, either they'll help with watching your child, or it's coming as either money for daycare, but definitely focus on the school. It's definitely as a time to do.
I'm also getting a little bit that school doesn't have to be all at once, like, a whole semester, but a little bit at a time. But I wish we knew this lovely lady's name, but to start.
Right.
It's a start.
It's a start.
Because the Tree of Life. So thank you so much. Thank you, Brant. I think your website, do you want to give your website where they can find you, Brant?
Sure. If you guys want to follow me or see what's happening on any events, you can go to www.brant, B-R-A-N-T, themedium.com.
Thank you, and thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed being with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
You're welcome. Thank you, Brant.